So we've always loved children. I remember even growing up, it was always fun playing with them. Alice, I know, was always drawn to them as well. And after we got married, we kind of became the go-to babysitters for all our nieces and nephews. And it was always fun, just seeing them from birth up until now. And we would always get asked, when it would be our turn to have kids, and we always said, well, because we got married so young, it would be later in life.
So fast forward a few years later, God started to really put the desire on our heart to have children of our own. We quickly noticed that nothing was happening. I decided to reach out to my doctor, and she sent me to a few different specialists just to run tests and see kind of what was going on. The journey quickly went from an exciting one to believing that it was going to be quick and easy to feeling just completely defeated and discouraged. I remember coming home from work before Johnny, and I would go into her family room, get on my knees, and I would just cry out to God, asking him to intervene and perform some sort of miracle.
I remember I would come home and ask her if she has been crying again, and I knew she had been praying. Soon after that, we both found ourselves on our knees praying and pleading with God that he would bless us too with kids.
I started going on my own health journey, just trying to heal my own body and believing that maybe that's what I needed to get pregnant. That journey took about 2 years and still nothing happened. The next step I took was reaching out to a doctor about taking fertility medication to see if that would help. And it helped my body do what it was supposed to, but all I was left with was negative pregnancy tests. In January of 2023, we were reminded of a special church service that only happens one time a year, and it's called Presentation Sunday. It's basically a Sunday service dedicated to couples that are struggling with infertility. The service starts out with a lot of testimonies, how God worked in other people's lives, blessing them with children after so many years. They would have a special prayer for anybody who was struggling with infertility. My family really encouraged us to attend, and I remember they all told us that they would show up and support us.
The morning of Presentation Sunday was just about a year ago now, on January 29th. Alice was very nervous. When all the testimonies had finished, they called people up to prayer. I stepped out of the seat, I grabbed her hand, and we walked up to the front to be prayed over.
I remember just feeling this immense feeling of peace over me. And I remember as soon as we got to the altar, we just felt many hands over us and started hearing a lot of people just starting to pray over us. Johnny and I were holding hands, and I could just feel his tears dripping down on my hand.
During the prayer last year, there were 2 people specifically that really had an impact on us, one of which was a gentleman. He had one hand on me, one hand on Alice, and the prayer that came from him was a prayer of authority. It wasn't a prayer of, Lord, bless them with kids. If it is your will, let them have children. No, his prayer was, Lord, this time they will be here next year with kids. They will be present. They will have a child. It left an impact on both of us.
There was a lady to my left who was praying over me, and she was speaking in tongues. And after the gentleman had finished praying, she leaned over into my ear and she told me that God had spoken to her that he would bless us with children. When we got up from the altar, walking back to our seats, just feeling so encouraged and that a miracle can happen and will happen. The following Saturday, I woke up that morning and I remember thinking, okay, well, it's time to test, so let's take a test and see what happens. In my head, I thought I was just gonna see another negative test. Well, after a few minutes of waiting, I had a positive pregnancy test. And I remember just at first feeling very shocked, just kind of in disbelief, like, how did this happen? A week ago, we were just praying about this, and here we are, and God heard us.
A few weeks later, we unfortunately lost a baby. And that was a very emotional time for both of us, but I think for Alice more than anything. We had questioned God why. We had gone to the altar, we were prayed over, Lord, you blessed us with this gift, and now it was taken away from us. But one thing we remembered was, okay, there were promises that were made to us at that altar. And as hard as it was for us to go through this miscarriage, we always had that in the back of our mind that the Lord knows best. He knows what he's doing and his timing is perfect. The one bright side about it was this was the first time we were able to actually see that Alice was able to conceive and that we are able to have children. So it did leave us a little glimpse of hope into the future, knowing this would be possible again because of the prayers at the altar and the promises.
So while I was pregnant, those short few weeks, I remember being at home and just always singing and just rejoicing and just thanking God. And after we lost the baby, it seemed like everything just took a turn, and I was so resentful not towards God, but I was resentful towards just looking at other babies. I couldn't. Having other people coming out with pregnancy announcements that are close to us, it took everything out of me to just be happy and to rejoice with them, because in my mind, I thought, well, that should have been us too.
However, because God's mercies are new every day, the story wasn't over. We were encouraged by so many people to not give up, to not give in, to keep pressing forward because of the promises that he had and all the encouragements from everyone that God would bring to completion what he had promised us.
3 months had passed since our miscarriage. One Sunday evening, I was in our office and I was singing and trying to record a song called There Was Jesus in Romanian. And some of the lyrics go like this: În tăcere, în durere, în așteptare clipe grele, o comoară ascuns a fost în întuneric, zi de zi, în orice vreme, pe unde am fost, pe unde voi merge, chiar și când eu nu știam ce e înainte, a fost Isus, sus pe munte, jos în vale, chiar și în valea umbrei morții și prin focul încercării a fost Isus. That song in the moment really resonated with me because it felt like I was in the valley and I was in a part of my life where it was probably one of the darkest that I've been in. He was always there and he felt my sadness and he heard my prayers and that my story wasn't over yet. Sunday, June 18th, I go and I take a test. To my disbelief, I see a second line. That Sunday was actually Father's Day. And I remember putting my hands around Johnny and just whispering to him, Happy Father's Day.
The journey felt long, but through it all, we knew that God had a plan, had a purpose, and it was our job to remain faithful to him and remain faithful to his plan. Remember the prayers and remember the altar call prayer. One day, indeed, we would be blessed with children.
So we want to thank everybody that has been part of our journey, who have always sustained us in prayer and have encouraged us and told us to not give up. We just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
And we want to say thank you to everybody who has shown up today and blessed us with many gifts, many generous gifts. And we pray that God blesses you guys. And we're just overwhelmed and very grateful and can't wait to finally hold our miracle. And we ask that you would continue to keep us in our prayers for these last few weeks that we have before meeting our baby. Thank you and God bless you.